Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Metal video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the latest stage, well, the first stage of the Supreme Magnificent Battle Gathering of Warriors Edition. So this is the latest Supreme Magnificent Battle, or SMB, Blue Zone, whichever way you want to call it. There are two stages, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z Part 1. We're going to be taking on the Dragon Ball stage, and then we're also going to discuss the mission for it in a separate video. It's super important to understand that this is a really long fight. This fight is in fact ridiculously long. It has so many phases and so many different bosses. In terms of overall difficulty, I will say it's not the hardest stage. It's definitely interesting and unique, but it's not the hardest stage. The highest an enemy hits is around about 1 million on their super, so it's not really crazy, but there's a lot of interesting stuff that they do that I think makes it very interesting. So let's talk. Firstly, it's important to know that this stage has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 phases, which is a lot. 7 phases is a lot for an event. It's a lot in general, but it's a lot for an event. Now, in terms of the bosses, we start out with a Goku Youth, moving into a double boss with Bulma Youth Oolong, then into Yamcha Puar, which is a singular unit, then Ox King and Chi Chi Youth, then Master Roshi, Krillin Youth and Launch, then Tien and Chaozu, and then finally Goku. Overall, a lot of the bosses start out very simple, and honestly the first couple of phases are not anything too remarkable. The final boss has some interesting gimmicks, but there's nothing really too crazy. I would say the most interesting thing is probably the Tien and Chaozu, the locking of character switching. So I think overall it looks really solid. So let's start with the bosses and just kind of talking our way through the bosses before we talk about the actual event itself and everything. So we have Goku Youth. He hits for about 575 on his super attack. He has a 230,000 attack normal, and he's immune to being stunned, which is all pretty good. We have Bulma Youth and Oolong, both respectively around 600 to 500,000 in terms of their super attacks, and roughly at about 250k on their normals. And then we have Yamcha and Puar, who have 700k on their super and do about 300k in terms of normals. There's nothing too crazy about any of these bosses. All of them can be sealed, all of them can be attack lowered, all of them can be defense lowered, and only Goku is immune to stunning. The rest can all be stunned and managed quite easily. So up until Yamcha and Puar, I would say, barring the slight increase in numbers, there's no discernible mechanic that you need to worry about. Even the Bulma Youth and Oolong, as much as there's 2 enemies, focusing on taking one of them out is more than fine. Then you get to Ox King and Chi Chi Youth. This is where things change quite a bit. So Ox King hits for about 800k on the super, Chi Chi about 800k on the super. Ox King is immune to sealing and stunning, Chi Chi is immune to sealing. So all very good there. Both of them hit for around 300k in terms of normals. There's nothing too crazy except for the fact that Chi Chi can fire 2 super attacks in a turn. So you may want to focus on taking her out first. She is not as tanky as the Ox King. After Chi Chi and the Ox King, we get to Master Roshi, Krillin Youth, and Launch. These 3 all represent one phase of the fight. You can, however, stun them. So although they're 3 enemies and it can be quite overwhelming, they are immune to sealing, but they are not immune to stunning or anything else. So you can attack lower them, defense lower them, and in general, just have a pretty good time against them. The Master Roshi, Krillin, and Launch hit for about 750 for Master Roshi, 675 for Krillin Youth, and Launch 500k on their supers. Master Roshi normals for about 300, Krillin 270, and Launch 200. My suggestion would be probably to take out Launch, as she's the weakest, then Krillin, then Master Roshi, just as a way to limit the amount of super attacks that you can take, and obviously reduce the potential sources of damage. After those 3, we come to the Tien and Chaozu. Tien and Chaozu hit for about 870 in terms of their super attack damage, HP of 27 million, and normals of 310,000. They are immune to super attack ceiling, immunity to being stunned, immune to attack and defense reduction, and they lock characters in place, which can be quite frustrating. There's nothing else really to them. They can super attack once, and like I said, they hit for about 900k, so there isn't anything I would say you want to focus on too much with them, but of course just be aware of that locking switching. It's a very annoying mechanic because it removes player agency. I completely understand why people don't like it. It's just not very cool. It's a really, really lame mechanic that I think people don't. I mean, when I say lame, let me rephrase that. I think it's good they have the mechanic because it makes fights interesting. But I think what it does is really hinders one of the few things you have control of in the fight. And so by not being able to switch, one of your units, you basically are kind of forced to just consider only two real decisions. Do you switch the other two or not? It's really about it. After Tien and Chaozu, we come to Goku, who's immune to super attack ceiling, immune to stunning, disables attack and defense reduction, and has a 5% chance of evasion. Goku can only fire one super per turn, but he is very likely to fire that super in the beginning of the turn. So he really likes to super before your first unit gets off their attack, and he has a 100% stunning rate. So what that means is basically he's looking to reduce your primary unit. So that unit that's in the first knot, he's really looking to reduce how effective they are and what they can do. Overall, what I'd say is that Goku for me is probably he is very irritating. I found him to be the most irritating just because he stunned my units, and that prevents a lot of damage because he's essentially stunning one of your 3 units. Aside from that, that's basically it for the event. The event poses some interesting challenges, but I don't think it poses anything too hectic. A lot of the times the bosses don't hit insanely high. Most high level, high meta teams will be able to handle everything more than fine. Generally speaking, you shouldn't really struggle with this event if you're using a top tier team. Obviously, if you're not using a top tier team, it's completely understandable, but I think overall it's a pretty straightforward event, especially once you get to grips with what the bosses do. I think for me, when I was building my team, I went for a Giant Head Power team. I really just wanted to try out the AGL Goku and take a look at him and see how good he did. Giant Head Power, interesting team. Obviously, I've got the physical LR SS4s. I've got the Int SS4 Goku as well. I've got the Friend AGL LR Goku GT SS3, which obviously is amazing to utilize together. But I think overall, I've also got the Strength and AGL SS4 LRs from the 4th anniversary. They are obviously easy aid. But yeah, I think overall the team is quite fun. I also went and ran the Tech Full Power Goku, but it was quite fun actually running the Tech Full Power Goku. I've never really used them, so it was cool to be able to use them in an event, even if it's not like the hardest one or anything, and just kind of see how he did. Obviously, on top of that, we also have the Gogeta as well, the Tech SS4 Gogeta, just a unit I personally like, although obviously isn't necessarily a super high caliber unit. I think he's good, it just relies a little bit on his counters and things like that. Overall, what I will say is, for me personally, I found the event to be a lot of fun. I think there's some really interesting, cool stuff that they've got going on, and I think overall it's a really, it's a cool kind of stage. I like the concept, I like everything from that perspective of it. In terms of like my team build, I think this is just a fun team I felt like doing. There's not really anything you need to bring. Stunning obviously helps a little bit early on. It helps all the way up pretty much to the Master Roshi Krillin Youth launch fight. So if you do have units that can stun reliably, that is going to help. But it's not something I would say you need to do. Like, I wouldn't say if you don't stun, you're going to lose. I would say stunning will help you win, but it's not mandatory to winning, unless you're like a brand new player who's really struggling and needs to look for some kind of gimmick. The stunning falls off anyway by the time you get to the two phases that are most irritating, being the Tien and Chaozu with the locking, and being the Goku with his first lot stunning. Again, it's not the end of the world. You should be able to handle it pretty decently. There's just one of those things that, yeah, like I said, ultimately at the end of the day, I think can cause players some problems. All in all, I think the Supreme Magnificent battles, having done all four of them at the point of recording this video, I think they were okay. Obviously, they're warming up, I guess. Yeah, they're going to kind of ramp things up eventually, which obviously is fine. But yeah, I think right now it's actually pretty straightforward, at least in my eyes, in terms of like the events. They're good, they're fun, but they're not necessarily anything that is absolutely insanely difficult. I think any relatively top tier team will handle this event with relative aplomb. Obviously there is a Dragon Ball Seekers mission, so we definitely 100% will have to do that, and I think it'll be interesting. If not, it won't be super duper difficult. But yeah, that is pretty much it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, it's always appreciated. And yeah, of course, that is basically it from me. So I will see you guys in the next one. If you need any more assistance, you can let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, I think that's it. So anyway, thanks for watching, take care, and bye.